London's transport regulator has refused to renew Uber's operating licence because of concerns about passenger safety and security. The rideshare service first lost its licence back in 2017, but it was granted 2 extensions, the most recent of which expires next week. London's mayor says Uber has had ample time to address concerns over drivers who use a fake identity to work.
Uber systems mean that there are thousands and thousands of journeys where the person driving you, if you're a user, isn't the person you thought it was.
Uber says the decision is extraordinary and wrong. It can continue to operate while it appeals that decision. So what now for Uber and other ride-sharing services? Steve Sammartino is a futurist and technology expert, and he is with us now in the studio. Great to have you with us,
Thanks
Steve.
for having me.
Given how long Uber has been operating in this space, why are they failing to regulate themselves properly?
The interesting thing about technology companies is that they don't see themselves operating in the transport industry or the accommodation industry. They like to believe that the operating procedures for them are different. And the digital world operates a little bit differently. Because we can't see the errors of what's happening within their database because they own and control it, their purview is always to try and fix that before the regulators find out.
So they're trying to stay one step ahead?
Absolutely. And the interesting thing about digital technology is that we've seen how quickly some of these services like Uber can scale. And what that means is that they can build a business incredibly quickly and get consumer demand and supply quickly. But when they have a problem and their systems get hacked, that also scales at an exponential rate. And so that's why they end up with problems that are very difficult to solve.
By the same token, though, they've had this warning about their licence. Are they reluctant? Are they trying to stay as this disruptor and not conform to what society expects of them?
Absolutely. So the technology companies out there, they tend to have this position that the rules do not apply to them. And the way that they've entered the marketplace, in many ways, it's like a form of predatory pricing. So what we need to remember is a company like Uber, which has raised, billions of dollars, can come into the market and use that to outprice incumbents with their service, put them out of business, and so they tend to flout the law. That's in their DNA as the way the company was formed. And so now that the businesses are established and large, they still have this scrappy startup ethic where the rules don't apply to them. And they are wrong, clearly, as we've seen in London.
They're now talking about getting facial recognition technology. Does their model support that kind of advancement?
What's interesting is that they have been using facial recognition technology to test the drivers. What was happening was a lot of drivers were having one account with multiple drivers and they were hacking the system to trick the facial recognition software. That software that they were using was developed by Microsoft, but it still has flaws within it. One of the things that we need to think about is that digital technology, when there's a problem there, we shouldn't always just think of a digital solution. Sometimes having an analog solution is better than a digital solution.
There's something much simpler.
Much simpler, physical in nature. A physical licence is far more difficult to hack. It turns out that their facial recognition software was so easy to hack. You could hold up an A4 picture of someone's face and the system will believe that that's the driver in the car. And so they had 14,000 instances of unlicensed drivers with passengers in their car. I mean, that's just flouting the law at a level where, it's clearly unacceptable. And I think a physical solution is what we should be looking to for some of these digital problems. Of course, the tech companies want it to be a digital solution because then it's still within their world to fix it and it enables them to delay and obfuscate the requirements of abiding by the law.
We're seeing other examples of this pushback to disruptors. In New Jersey, they've voted against Airbnb. They want to have a different kind of model in place that circumvents them. Is this the traditional space pushing back, not wanting to be disrupted?
Well, I think there's, of course, that, because what we've seen is the efficiency that comes with Airbnb and Uber. They're improving asset utilisation, whether it's bedrooms or cars or labour on demand. So there's absolutely consumer and economic benefits to their model. But what they like to do is not use the laws that way. And so the incumbents in those industries say all we want is a fair competing marketplace. If you are renting out your houses, then you should apply by the laws that all of the accommodation providers abide by. And we've had laws of commercial zones and non-commercial zones with renting houses for a really long time. And so now New Jersey has pushed back, and many cities of the world have pushed back, saying, no, if you want to operate like a hotel operator, these are your taxes, these are your laws, here's the fire code. And I think that's right. I think that's right.
And do you think we'll see more of this where sort of by jurisdiction, they will make up their own rules with regard to Uber, other sort of app services like this?
Absolutely. It's time to not confuse the possible with the profitable. And we have to civilise the technology, because we want to have our tech and eat it too, right? That's what we want to have. But in order to do that, we need to have the laws that are the same for all providers. And just like we had with the Industrial Revolution, when we had the factories, and we had to institute occupational workplace health and safety because we wanted the efficiency, but we also wanted the laws that gave people good living standards, safe work practices, and safe consumer safeguards. So it's time to civilise that technology, and I think we'll see various governments around the world making laws that suit their constituents.
And that's a great piece of history to draw on in terms of that comparison, that disruptor of the Industrial Revolution. We're facing it again, but do their business models live up to that ability to properly provide a decent living, a decent wage to workers, and a decent model for safety and conditions?
Many times they don't. I mean, I think that Uber may never be a profitable company based on the fact that they lose money every ride. They lose $10 on every $30 that they bring in. And by having their people providing the services not being employees, that's far more profitable. And so some of the reason these technology firms are so profitable is they get labour for free, and they get labour at a lower cost. They don't have the real cost that other businesses have. So you have an unfair marketplace. And in many ways, we can also say in the digital economy that data is actually labour. We're working for Facebook, we're working for Google, and we're not being rewarded for the labour there. And I think the gig is up a little bit. We're starting to say, hey, we love your services, but maybe it's about time you started respecting the civilization that you profit from.
The gig on the gig is up.
Absolutely.
Good to talk to you. Thanks, Steve.
Pleasure.